It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of December 13th, 2002. 5 films to look at today. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Jennifer Lopez, and her latest romantic comedy, I should say, and that is Made in Manhattan. So that's romantic comedy since Pretty Woman. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Pretty Woman's not even the greatest romantic comedy of all time, but you're putting this movie on too high of a pedestal, my friend. Made in Manhattan, you have Jennifer Lopez as a hotel maid who falls in love with a high-profile politician played by Ralph Fiennes. He thinks she's got a ton of money, but she's just a hotel maid, and with her friends there, you could pretty much figure out what's going to happen here. And sadly, that's the biggest downfall of the movie. It's a film we've seen done to death so many times. We just saw it with The Wedding Planner, not but a year before this. I mean, it's literally almost the same movie. And at least The Wedding Planner was at least acknowledging that it's pretty much the same movie. This one's not even trying to hide it. And what's the worst thing about this movie is the people behind the scenes. You have Wayne Wang, who did The Joy Luck Club, a really good director overall. The writer of this is Kevin Wade, who's written a ton of stuff before. Stuff that actually has been really good. Working Girl was a great movie. He wrote True Colors. He wrote Mr. Baseball. He wrote Meet Joe Black Jr. These films that are nothing like this film whatsoever. I don't know how he got his hand on this film in particular, because this does not feel like something that he would have written if you've seen his work beforehand. And Edmond Dantes, which is a name that you don't usually associate with modern films. This is, of course, the name of the Count of Monte Cristo, but this is actually the pseudonym of one John Hughes. So yeah, John Hughes had a hand in writing the script for this. And you think with a movie written by John Hughes, there would be something at least more to it than whatever the hell they were trying to do here. But nope, it's pretty much what you think it is. And then again, John Hughes uses that pseudonym when his name on his name, assuming on his name on a project that he does not like. Although he used the same name for Beethoven, which I don't know. Beethoven was kind of fun, but using it on this and using it on Joe Taylor, that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know. These are the last two films he did before he died too. Made in Manhattan and Joe Taylor. Just think about that. The guy who revolutionized the comedy in the teen comedy in the 1980s. His career has resulted to this. It's basically the same movie as The Wedding Planner, and it doesn't even hide it. But maybe you can get away with it. I mean, you've got Ralph Fiennes and Jennifer Lopez. They're very good actors. Too bad they don't show any chemistry in here. I mean, they really do not have good chemistry in this whatsoever. Like, how do you not get chemistry with a guy like Ralph Fiennes? I mean, how do you not get chemistry with people like Jennifer Lopez or Natasha Richardson, who's also in there, Stanley Tucci, Bob Hoskins? A really good cast in general all throughout this film. I mean, but it just falls into territory that we've seen done over and over and over again. And it's not even enjoyable. Like, this is a film that really fails to take it off quickly. And, you know, it's a film that, it's kind of like Sweet Home Alabama. It's that movie that you always see playing on TV every once in a while. Everyone thinks of it as this movie that, you know, it was a hit when it came out, so that must mean it's something that we have to show on TV numerous times, and then you realize when you watch the film, no, this isn't a good movie. At least Sweet Home Alabama, I get why that film has an audience appeal to it, but even then, I still don't think that movie is good. I mean, we've seen movies that are much better than that film, that are so much more enjoyable, that hardly get any playtime, but that one shows up every couple of months on TV, as does this movie here. I mean, it's such a mediocre film. It's not even that it's a bad movie. It's just a lazy film because it's every single cliche you've seen in rom-coms like this. And it's not clever by any means necessary. It's not funny. It's a waste of good talent. The chemistry is not there. It's just a terrible, terrible film. I mean, this is a film that's just, I don't get it. I don't think the movie really is that good. I think it's just a massive misfire on so many levels. I really don't have anything else to say about this one. Made in Manhattan, not a very good film. And that leads us into our next movie, which is the shocker of all shockers, that Made in Manhattan beat this movie that would have easily been the #1 movie. But it's the first time in a long time that people said no to Star Trek. Here's Star Trek Nemesis. So yeah, this was kind of a big deal that this movie crashed and burned at the box office. I mean, Star Trek films usually do very well in November and December, as the last couple of films have shown. They were decent hits overall, and this film in particular was kind of Star Trek's big waking point, kind of like what Treasure Planet was. They got the realization that Star Trek isn't forever, and unless you do something different or something that completely rejuvenates the series, you're going to lose out big time, as this film is the case here. This is the fourth and last film to feature the Next Generation team, and you have the story here where the crew of the USS Enterprise E are forced to deal with a threat to the United Federation of Planets featuring a Reman clone of Captain Picard named Shinzone, who has taken control of Romulan Star Empire in a coup d'etat. And this thing had its ramifications for doing badly at the box office. It basically led to the end of Star Trek Enterprise, which was the show that was on UPN at the time. They had actually begun plans for a new Star Trek series with a different cast in general, but that eventually shut down. And eventually Viacom would split up with CBS and Paramount, eventually leading to the inevitable reboot that came out a couple years later with J.J. Abrams at the helm. Yeah, Star Trek Nemesis is the one that many people consider Star Trek reaching its low point. I mean, it was at the point where after over 35 years, Star Trek was finally starting to lose its muster. You know, Enterprise wasn't the big hit that they were hoping for. It was still a success for UPN, but they were expecting a lot more for that. They were expecting that to be the thing that was going to push UPN to the next level. That was supposed to be their moment, where their American Idol, but where it kind of took off on its own, where American Idol became the massive hit for Fox at the same year. Enterprise was supposed to be the same thing, but it just never made it up to that point. And Nemesis was just another sign that it was basically time to change some things up here. So that probably means that Nemesis was a really bad movie, right? And honestly, it kind of isn't. I mean, yeah, it has a lot of bad things to it, but unlike Insurrection, there's more interesting things going on in this movie than there was in Insurrection. Insurrection was just a boring film in general, and people still bought it, but they didn't buy this film in particular. I like the idea of Picard going up against his younger self. His younger self was played by Tom Hardy in one of his first film roles here in the U.S., and I like the conflicts that it creates. The acting is there. It's a million times better than it was in Resurrection. I mean, yeah, I'm going to keep bringing up Insurrection because it's a terrible effing movie. The visual effects in here, they're very impressive. You know, the shot where the Enterprise crashes into the other ship is probably one of the most epic and fantastic shots that you're going to get to see in a Star Trek film. But other than that, yeah, I can't argue that the film is a good movie. It's not. It's mostly kind of mediocre. The action sequences aren't quite as strong as the visuals are. They do try to up the ante a little bit on the action, but a lot of them start off really looking good, but then kind of just fall apart at the end. Even you can tell that the cast in this movie felt like they didn't want to be a part of this. The chemistry was just not there than it usually was. It wasn't as strong as it was before, as it was in the other films, but then again, that might be because of who directed this, but we'll delve into that in just a second here. Even the story, which has a lot of things going on that I liked, that I thought was kind of interesting, they really weren't that new or creative. It's the good guy against the bad guy again. And once again, we have sort of some of the conflict with Data because it's Data. It's Tuesday. Of course, it's going to be something going on with Data in this. Then again, Brent Spiner is also one of the people who made the story for this. The biggest flaw of the film really comes down to the direction of the film. I guess when they got complaints about Insurrection's lack of action, Paramount decided to hire another action director that could do nothing but give us action. So they went with Stuart Baird, who's a great editor. He's edited a lot of the Richard Donner movies. I mean, he's done a ton of films before. He's directed a couple films, Executive Decision, the criminally underrated U.S. Marshals. And it turns out Stuart Baird had never watched an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, and that's your first mistake right there. Like, you gotta hire a director who's seen the show he's making the movie of. I mean, you can't just do a movie and just get a director who has never heard of the source material before and just get him to do it there. I mean, at least J.J. Abrams J.J. Abrams at least knew how to handle Star Trek and Star Wars when he was given the opportunity to do both movies. And remember when I said the cast in this didn't feel like they wanted to do this? Apparently, they didn't like working with Stuart Baird. In fact, LeVar Burton and Marina Sirtis, Doherty and Deanna Troi have come out critically of director Stuart Baird. Sirtis called him an idiot. Jonathan Frakes, who was both the who praised both the character of him and of Shenzon and Tom Hardy, said that if he had directed it as he had done with the previous two films, he probably would have made the film less villain-centric, gave it more screen time to the regular crew of the Next Generation, and that's a good point. I mean, couldn't you get Jonathan Frakes to do it again? Because of one bad movie, that's like, okay, screw it, you're done. It's just like, I think if you have put Frakes in this movie, this probably would have been made for a much better film, but then he did Clock Stoppers. I mean, think about when Robert Wise directed the first Star Trek film in 1979. It was ambitious to see a prolific and well-known director come in to make a Star Trek movie. Wise was one of the premier directors of his time, and he knew that he had to at least be able to make the motion picture look really good, despite its noticeable flaws. Stuart Baird is no Robert Wise. You can't hire somebody who's never seen the source material unless they have a clear image of what can be done to save the series, much like what they did with J.J. Abrams. But, like I said, I don't think Nemesis is the worst Star Trek movie, but it definitely has a lot of flaws to it. There are things that I think can be improved on. They do improve on over with Insurrection, but even so, this is still not a good movie. It's trying way too hard to be nothing but over-the-top action, focused solely on the villain and the actual Next Generation crew, in what was supposed to be their last film together. I mean, you heard it in the trailer. And because of this film bombing, it was a long time for them to come back to, and the Next Generation team would have had at least one more solid movie to possibly turn us around, but nope. The fact that they only had one good movie, and that was Star Trek First Contact, is a shame. 4 movies, and only one of them turned out to be good. That's depressing to think about. And, yeah, it's just a shame. But, like I said, the original movies had some form of quality to them. 4 of the 6 Star Trek movies are good films. But then the Next Generation team only gets 1 movie out of 4. It's definitely a disappointment. It's a shame. It's a waste of talent. These guys definitely deserve better movies. And it's a shame that they can only get 1 good movie out of 4. And Nemesis basically ended that on a bad note. But, on the plus side, it would get better for Star Trek down the road, and we'll get to that when we get to the J.J. Abrams film in 2009. But, yeah, that is Star Trek Nemesis, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Nick Cannon in Drumline. Drumline stars Nick Cannon, and it follows the story of him as a young drummer from New York who enters the fictional Atlanta A&T University and bumps heads with the leader of the new school's drum section, which also features a cast that includes Zoe Saldana, Leonard Roberts, and Orlando Jones. This is the first film directed by Charles Stone III, who directed such films as Uncle Drew, and most recently he directed Snoop Dogg and The Underdogs. This is one of those movies that kind of feels like a film we've seen done before, but unlike some of the movies that we've talked about on this particular show, like Made in Manhattan, this movie actually did something clever and unique with it. The thing that maybe makes this movie stand out for me are the overall performances of the drum lines. I mean, if you've never been a fan of the drum lines before, you'll get more invested out of the drum lines that they have in this movie. I mean, these bands that they have here do a pretty damn good job of making this incredibly interesting to watch. I mean, I never thought I would watch a movie where I'd be so invested in watching a drum line be so invigorating and entertaining to watch. It's just a really good movie, man, filled with a lot of good talent involved. The cast does a very good job working off each other. Really solid cast, some great cinematography overall. It's just a really solid film. A movie that really, it's one of those little surprises that really comes out of nowhere. You don't expect a whole lot from it, honestly, but it leads into a really enjoyable film that really takes you off guard and actually gives you a lot more than you possibly could have expected. It's a terrific film. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. Check out Drumline. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The Hot Chick. And, there was a lot of jokes about Rob Schneider back in the day. I mean, South Park pretty much did the best Rob Schneider parody you could do with here. But, this trailer that I'm about to show you, the Rob Schneider parodies from the South Park trailers look better compared to what I'm about to show you here. Oh my god, that was horrible. Oh, that was bad. Now keep in mind, that's what they sold people the movie on. The parody from South Park was more dignified, and that was meant to be a joke. What I just showed you was for real. So, do I really need to tell you more about this movie? Really? Do I have to keep going? Okay, you have Rachel McAdams in her film debut as this mean-spirited cheerleader who switches bodies with an incompetent criminal played by Rob Schneider. When Jessica discovers the switch was caused by a pair of enchanted earrings she had stolen, one of which accidentally ends up in Clive's possession, she enlists the help of her friends to get the earrings back together before the switch becomes permanent. Yeah, this is a bad movie. I mean, really, I could just end it right there, but no, screw it. I'm gonna end it right there because really, like, you wouldn't believe that this comes from the same guy that did writing for The Simpsons, that did writing for The Critic, but he wrote and directed this movie. Like, Tom Brady, not the Tom Brady. No. This is a different Tom Brady. But this guy that went from The Simpsons and The Critic made this film. Are you happy with your life choices, dude? Are you happy that you said yes to this? Are you happy out there in America for making this the success that it was? Because it was a big success. It was a success when it came out. It was about as successful as Deuce Bigalow Male Gigolo was 3 years prior. And, God, this movie is so stupid. Like, I really don't know what else to say about this movie. And, no, screw it. I'm just ending it right here. I mean, screw this movie, man. This is a terrible, terrible movie. Like, this is the worst of Rob Schneider as a leading man. I mean, it's amazing how low he sunk for a film like this. It's amazing how everybody sunk for this movie. I mean, this is a film that is so lazy, so uninspired, so unfunny, and just devoid of all the talent that they have involved in here. Okay, I'm going to seriously stop right now because, like, I've said it, 3 times now, I'm going to stop, but I've got nothing else to say about this movie. This is a fucking terrible movie, man. Fuck this movie. Avoid it like the plague. Let's go ahead and end the show on a much better note, shall we? Let's talk about a good film, a good comedy with Jack Nicholson and Kathy Bates, and that is About Schmidt. Jack Nicholson plays Warren Schmidt, who's led a safe, predictable life working in the insurance industry in Omaha, Nebraska for many years, yet now faces retirement. At the same time, he's forced to take a hard look at his life, and his relationships with his estranged daughter. An often hilarious series of events follows as Schmidt embarks on an unpredictable RV journey to attend his daughter's wedding in Denver, Colorado. This is, of course, directed by Alexander Payne, who had just given us a lecture beforehand, and you know, this is a film that features not just Jack Nicholson and Kathy Bates, but Hope Davis, Dermot Mulroney, June Squibb, Howard Hessman, Matt Winston, Phil Reeves, Len Carlo, Connie Ray, Harry Groner, and it's a really, really good movie. I mean, it's a really interesting character study, and one of Jack Nicholson's last really good films in general. I think it's a film that really shows that even at his old age, even at an old age back then, this guy still knows what he's doing when it comes to acting. I mean, he really makes this his own. It's a really solid film that showcases what Jack Nicholson can do as an actor. It shows that Kathy Bates is really damn good as an actress, too. I mean, she won an Oscar of her own for Misery, and she got nominated again for this particular film, and you can definitely see why. I mean, you'd be forcing them to give you an Oscar, too, for the fact that you had to do a nude hot tub scene. And it was definitely something. It was something interesting, something unique, and I did not know I needed that in my life, but there it is. But yeah, it's a really good film. It's a film that really is a testament to what Jack Nicholson can bring to the table as an actor, even at his old age. And this is one of the few. This is coming towards the end of his career where he wasn't making as many movies as he used to, but at least he was picking films that were at least smarter and much more enjoyable than some of the films he was making beforehand. Like The Pledge was a bad movie that he made. I mean, there's a couple other films in particular I could bring up here, but this is definitely one that is well worth a watch. And if I'm not mistaken, it might be the best thing that we have this particular weekend. In fact, it might be the best movie that I think I've seen on this weekend's list here. So yeah, that's the one I would pick if you're just picking for movies from a specific week or so. See About Schmidt. I mean, if you like Alexander Payne's work, you're definitely going to find a lot of value in this particular film. So with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About Their Movies, and next time we'll take a look at 7 movies, including The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, the second part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant in another romantic comedy, 2 Weeks' Notice, Martin Scorsese directing Cameron Diaz, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, The Wild Thornberrys come to the big screen. Will it be a better adaptation than Hey Arnold? I would think so, but we also have Denzel Washington's directorial debut, Antoine Fisher, Spike Lee's 25th Hour, the first real film to take place after the events of September 11th, and we have Joe Carnahan's Narc. So we've got 7 movies to look at next time around. Packed show. As we get close to the end of 2002, we'll take a look at all those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.